The last section of this unit was creating a simple web page with all of your graphics on to present to the client, and in doing that you all exported your graphics. The banner you exported as a flash file, and the buttons as PNG files, and the navigation bar was already in WebPlus. And if you can show that you've thought about file size and the type of graphic that you're using, you can get a higher mark. Now the way to get an A on this is actually to do some comparison between different file types for the buttons and for the banner. I don't think we can do it for the navigation bar, and you won't be marked down on that. So I'm going to show you how I've done it for the buttons. Now there's a few things for you to think about here. First of all, I've made a presentation that you can have a look at, and this will be in Pupil Resources, and it shows you for buttons some file types you could use: GIF, JPEG or PNG, and it explains whether they support things like transparency and animation. And I've also created a presentation page about file types you could compare for your banner, and these ones I think you could do animated GIF, PNG and flash files. And there's information on there that you can read that will allow you to explain a bit more about which is a good or not so good graphic file type for your graphics. And the last page of that presentation is a suggestion to you of a table you could use to compare the graphics. So I've done one for the buttons, and you could make one for the buttons and a similar one for the banner. I'm going to take you through how you could compare the buttons now. So I'm going to minimise that presentation. So in Word, I've set up a document and I've given it a title, Exporting My Buttons, and explained that I'm going to compare 3 different file types for my buttons, and I've put this table in. Now you can copy this from my presentation and adapt it however you like. So I'm going to fill this table in as I go through exporting these in the different ways, and underneath I'm going to add some screenshots that show how I exported my graphics. I'm just going to do this for one button, and that will be fine because all my buttons are the same and it's going to be really similar. If I use one button to compare, that will be fine. So in drawplus, I'm going to take my button and I'm going to go and export it. Now the first one in the table was GIF, so I'm going to choose Export as Image, and I'm going to choose GIF. And I'm going to check things like the transparency is ticked, so I'm going to check the settings in here, and you can try out some of the different settings. WebSafe, the graphic actually doesn't look quite so good quality, so I'm going to stick with optimised colour. And you can have a look at some of the different settings in there, but you do need to check you've got your transparency ticked. Click on the estimated download time and have a look at the options. Now these are all really slow connection speeds, and to be honest we need to just choose the fastest one, which is cable. That's going to be closest to broadband, and it's telling us that the file size for our graphics is going to be 13.3 kilobytes, and it's going to take less than 1 second to download that on a web page. I'm going to take a screenshot of that. I'm going to pop that into my presentation, my piece of work in Word, sorry. I'm just going to pop that down. So I've got an image here of how I was exporting and sorting out that GIF and looking at whether it was a sensible file size and download speed. So there's my screenshot. Now I can always add comments later to that. Now, using that screenshot I can fill in the tables. So the file size for the animated GIF is 13.3 kilobytes. And the download time is less than 1 second. The quality of the image on the web page I don't know yet, and I need to go through back to drawplus and actually do the export and save it. So this is my button GIF. Now I've made a folder specially to do this so that it doesn't get too confusing. So I've made a folder to compare my buttons, and I'm going to save it in there. Now I'm very quickly going to do the same for my other graphic. I'm going to for my other file types. I'm going to export as a JPEG. Now you might already know, but JPEGs don't actually support transparency or animation, so it might not be the right one for us to use, but we're going to look at it anyway. And we're going to again get a screenshot and a file size from that. So I'm going to take my screenshot, pop it into my document. I'm doing this quite quickly, you can take your time. And I'm going to fill in my table from that. 30.9 kilobytes for my file size. So you can see that is a lot bigger, and the download time less than 1 second. Now unfortunately we can't be more accurate than that, so you're going to have to just accept or maybe explain that with the fastest connection speed we're finding that our graphics are all coming out less than 1 second as download time. Let's quickly do the last one. If I save that, I'll actually export that as a JPEG. So this is button JPEG. So now I've done the GIF and I've done the JPEG. So the last one I need to do is the PNG. File, export as image, and this time I'm going to choose PNG. Now again, you can have a look at some of the settings, but actually most of the settings have been done for you here correctly and in the best quality you're going to get. Let's look at the estimated download time for the PNG file and the size. So it's 29.9 kilobytes and again less than 1 second. So we'll take an image of that, pop it into our document, pop it down, alright, and then in the table I'm going to fill that in, so it was 29.9 and less than 1 second again. Now the quality of the images needs to go into this table. That's going to actually help me decide which is the best one to use. Later on you could add some comments here if you wanted about settings that you changed or anything you want to comment on, for example why you chose cable as your modem type there and what the options were. But for the moment that's absolutely fine. So all I need to do is now think about how I can put my graphics onto a web page and actually compare them, and the next tutorial is going to take you through that.